It's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to that like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, I sure would appreciate it if you did that while you're here. Let's get into it. The place to start, I think, is down in the Bahamas, where the Bahamar Championship semifinals were played last night. We carried them on CBS Sports Network in Game 1. It was a thriller. Final score, number 13, Baylor 99, number 22, St. John's 98. It happened in double overtime. If you watched it, you know St. John's had it, but then lost it. Up 18 in the first half, up 14 at the break, up 5 in the second overtime with less than 8 seconds to play. Then with 4.1 seconds left, Zuby Ejiofor, St. John's player, was at the free throw line. The Johnny's got a 2-point lead, a chance to put it away, but he missed the first free throw. He missed the second free throw, and that set up a terrific moment that culminated with a Jeremy Roach buzzer beater. You might have seen it already. If not, either way, I don't care. Let's watch it together.
Ejiofor is second. Off the front rim. Omier has it with 2. Roach for the win. It's good!
Oh, man. Can you believe that?
Jeremy Roach has won it for the Baylor Bears. A buzzer beater in the Bahamas.
And I think the officials will look at the replay just to make sure there's no time. But, man, what a shot. And, again, St. John's really wasn't out of position. The only thing maybe you could have done differently was try to turn them side to side to use a little bit more clock. But what a shot.
That is out of his hands.
I mean, Smith is, look how high he is trying to block that one.
Norlander, I am comfortable calling it the greatest shot in Bahamar history. Are you comfortable calling what we watched last night the greatest shot in Bahamar history?
Oh, I'm very comfortable calling it that. I was out at dinner watching this on the old celly, and just first of all, felt like the game took forever. Did it feel like that in the studio? Because just watching it, like getting through dinner, I'm like, this game still isn't over. Like it seemed to take forever.
Are you out of your mind? Did it feel like that in the studio? Let me walk you through my situation. All right. Typically, CBS Sports Network, we have a doubleheader or a tripleheader. They are 2 games or 3 games originating in different places. They all have scheduled tip times, and you might slide the tip, as they say, 9 minutes or 11 minutes, but these games are roughly going to start when they start. You always have a pretty good idea what time you're getting out of the studio. But when your doubleheader is originating at the same place, in the same gym, in the same event, Game 2 can't start until about 30 minutes after Game 1. So every time we went to another overtime, you was pushing us back about 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. Oh, yeah, it felt like it lasted forever.
That's right. We know all about sliding the tip here on the podcast, obviously. That's nothing new. We've talked about it before, and we'll talk about it again. Game came with controversy.
Married or not.
Yeah, exactly. Focus. So Zuby Ejiofor misses 2 foul shots at the end of the second OT. But that was also, the situation was exacerbated because Scott Drew apparently, I missed this in real time, but saw the accounts after the fact, lobbies for a review just to make sure Ejiofor didn't throw an elbow. So in effect, Nada's got this out as well. Nada, let's play this in just a second. In effect, the review prompts the officials to ice Ejiofor. Now you still got to make them, but whether you believe in the concept of icing or not, it did happen. The foul shots are missed. It gives Roach a chance. This is a quick soundbite here. If you did not catch it overnight or early this morning, here's what Rick Pitino said afterward about that whole sequence.
I felt at the end of the game that was highly unethical to go to the camera on a BS makeup and icing my free throw shooter. Highly unethical. And the referee should never let it happen.
We're always here for Rick Pitino to talk about things that are potentially unethical there. So that's tough. And apparently the clock started late. So I was watching, as I was winding down here, I was watching you and Zook and everyone on the Inside College Basketball show. And Zook made the accurate point where, okay, if you start it when it maybe should have started, maybe he gets the shot off earlier from 5 feet out. Maybe he still makes it. We don't know. But it probably would have been a tougher deal there, and maybe St. John's still escapes. But whatever. St. John's, they blew it, then they had it, then they lost it, then Baylor seemed to have it, then they lost it. And we talked last week that Charleston win over FAU was arguably the game of the year. I still think it probably might have narrowly edged this one, but if not, that was the 1A to this 1B here, and just an awesome game on CBS Sports Network. Bahamar, you've never been hotter than right now. Yeah, I mean, it's just a wild game. Baylor hits 10 threes in the second half. Norchad Omier had 24 points, 10 boards. Edgecombe, you want to see this. Like, he hit a critical three there late, and it was a gutty, big win from Baylor. Like, you take it any way you can get it in that spot. And now for St. John's, they've got to play Virginia in the losers bracket of that one. But give me anything else you got on this game, GP. Yeah. What it was like to watch it in the studio. Roach winds up being the hero, the transfer from Duke. What other thoughts you got from this one?
Okay, so you mentioned Edgecombe. He wasn't good. He was 4 of 15 from the field. He was 0 of 3 from the field in the first half. And the point I made at halftime is, like, he's obviously an undeniable one-and-done lottery pick, incredible NBA prospect. You don't believe me? Ask Mark Few's son. But Baylor doesn't need him to be a great prospect. They need him to be a great college basketball player. And last night, he wasn't. But I loved what I saw from him. Like, he ain't gonna go 4 of 15 every game. He's gonna have games where that's 11 of 15, and we'll be talking about should he be the number 1 pick of the draft, challenging Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey or whatever. What I loved is that he was not playing well, and he had family in attendance. He's originally from the Bahamas. It's a big moment for him, and he wasn't playing well, and yet he was still on the floor getting after loose balls. He got 3 steals. He blocked 2 shots. Like, when his teammates made big shots, he seemed genuinely happy for them. And if I'm evaluating from an NBA perspective, I look at that game last night and I go, I didn't like the way he played in terms of, like, he didn't play well, but I loved everything else that I saw. He played hard. He was doing little winning things, the stuff Dan Hurley always talks about. And he seemed genuinely happy in the moment, even though he was not performing well. And not all basketball players are capable of feeling that way or showing it.
Yeah, that was impressive to see. And Edgecombe, despite not having a good game, collectively both teams did. I mean, Baylor was 15 of 29 from 3-point range. St. John's 14 of 24. I mean, the teams combined to shoot well above 50% from beyond the arc. Edgecombe's time, I think he'll play himself into a more valuable role. Like what I saw out of Omier significantly. He actually had a big block. I want to say there was like 45 seconds left in the second overtime when that transpired. So he stepped up big. Roach played well. You got good enough play out of Jaden Nunn. Robert Wright, by the way, who's the freshman guard off the bench. Good things just seem to happen when he's involved in the game. And he played 27 minutes. So if he's going to be if he's going to register 25 plus minutes and he's just going to come off the bench to start the game, that's no huge deal there. But he's developing into as valuable player at this stage of the season for Baylor as Edgecombe. There's no question about it. But good on Roach for hitting that shot. You spend a career at Duke, you have a good career at Duke, and you got the one bonus season here, and you go to Baylor, a team that's got Final Four aspirations, and a really, really tough schedule. We'll get to obviously the next game coming up here in the Final Four and 1. But a special moment for him, and a moment that quite unquestionably in a career that's had some really high highs has got to register near the top overall. For St. John's, first loss of the season. It's a bitter one, and I didn't realize this watching the game because I was at dinner, so the volume wasn't high or anything like that. But Kaderi, Richmond, and Ejiofor apparently also were suffering from some cramps. It's just going to happen. We've seen this with other teams. We've seen it with Duke. But if you're St. John's, you had your real window of opportunity there, and you couldn't take advantage of it. Aaron Scott, I mentioned the 3-point shooting. He did tremendously off the bench. He had 5 triples, I believe, in this one, and St. John's, one really escaped from him. Now, if you're a Johnny's fan, we've got a few in the chat here, understandably frustrated. I get it, but there are no moral victories. I understand that as well. You had an 18-point lead on this team, and you couldn't hold it. That is gonna. I'm not even kidding when I say Pitino might have kept his staff up all night, going over tape and prepping this, because that kind of collapse is just not acceptable for him. And particularly because the defense had been good. And even if Baylor's got some really, really good offense, it's got future NBA players, it's got such dynamic play at the wing position, you can't be blown an 18-point lead. If you're going to be a top 3, top 4 team in the Big East, you can't let that happen there. So that is a bit concerning. And now you don't want to let it fester. You got to turn around a day later after your guys are suffering from cramps. You got to turn around and beat a Virginia team that, might not be great, obviously, but
definitely not great.
Doesn't matter. One day turnaround, though, after a double overtime game when you guys were having some cramps there and you were hot from 3, can that really translate game over game? If St. John's fans are now a little bit nervous, where it's like we were on the precipice of beating Baylor, potentially going 2-0 here and vaulting our status to maybe top 10 realm going into next week, and now it's like, oh, damn. We lose the game the way we lost it. Please just hold on for dear life and don't go 0-2 here and tank our resume before we get to Thanksgiving. I understand the anxiety from Johnny's fans.
Yeah, if you want me to say it looked like the clock didn't start on time, I'll tell you it looked like the clock didn't start on time. And if you want me to tell you that it's possible the officials reviewing that, to quote Rick Pitino, iced Zuby Ejiofor, I'll tell you it's possible that the officials doing that iced or played a role in icing Zuby Ejiofor. I don't think it was unethical. I mean, I'll stop short of that, unless every time a coach argues for a call at any point in any game.
To be fair, I mean, I'm not saying you don't find some things unethical, but your barrier to entry for what might be unethical. Let's just be fair. Let's understand the narrator here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe my barriers for what's unethical is a little higher or lower depending on your perspective.
Although I'm curious what our podcast audience would have said before the show, or even now, if you took Gary Parrish's ethics and his approach toward life and Rick Pitino's, which man do you have more faith in? Which man do you side with more?
I never pretended.
I actually think it might be you. I mean, buddy, I'm gonna back you on this one.
Hey, but I would understand if it's not. Okay, I would understand if it's not. I never said I'm perfect. I never even said I'm good.
I'm saying you're good. I'm saying you're good right now. Good morning. You're good.
The only thing I said about myself is that I can rank 26 basketball games.
Well, that I'm actually not so sure on, but
That's the only thing I'm confident in when it pertains to myself. I'm going to stop short of calling Scott Drew arguing for a review unethical in a sport that his head coach is arrested. I'm going to stop short of calling Scott Drew arguing a call in the middle of a game of the Bahamar semifinal.
I don't think Pitino was saying Scott was unethical. I think he said the officiating crew being willing to be convinced by Scott and going to the monitor at a point when his player was on the foul line, that was unethical.
Well, maybe, but he did subsequently say the ref should have never allowed it, which suggests that Scott was doing something unethical.
But in coaching rivalry, is Scott Drew the new John Calipari to Rick Pitino?
Hey, there's only 6 active coaches with national championships, and now 2 of them have a rivalry because one of them thinks the other one's unethical, and hilariously, it's Rick Pitino about Scott Drew.
The season's off to an incredible start.
I love it. Like people say Scott Drew's the best person in the world. And Rick Pitino's like, he's unethical. And I don't even care if it's real. I just think it's hilarious.
No. We're not going to let truth get in the way of this.
Yeah. On Jeremy Roach. So after the game, you saw the post-game interview. Scott was like, Jeremy Roach is a winner. Jeremy Roach is a big-time player. And it is true. Like, this guy started 108 games at Duke, and one of those seasons is the shortened COVID season where they like beat Louisville in the ACC tournament, and then it was just over. Like they just beat Louisville one day, and then their season was over. It
happens.
It happens. He started 108 games at Duke. He went to 2 Elite Eights, went to a Final Four. He won an ACC regular season title. He won an ACC tournament title, and he has made it clear that he wasn't necessarily looking to leave Duke. He just, and I don't know that he's expanded on this, but he said he just felt or was made to feel like it was time to move on from Duke. And our buddy, Seth Davis tweeted about it last night. And this is going to be the type of thing. If he's like an all-conference level or maybe even an all-American level player at Baylor and Duke has ball handling problems or lead guard problems, people will start to ask the question, so why did Jeremy Roach feel like he needed to move on? Because it looks like you might need somebody just like him.
Yeah, I think the potential for that is on the table. Although also I think he wanted, I don't think he left Duke under, and I'm not saying you're implying this, but like, it's not like he left under bad circumstances or anything like that. Like, I feel like there's a lot of his situation that applies to Mason Gillis, who did the same thing. He's a different kind of player, but with Purdue. And Gillis wanted one more year. He wanted to try something different, a new spot. Now Gillis, I'm going to see him play here in Tucson tonight against Arizona. And now Roach, who had a really good career at Duke, got a spot with another quality high major, and he can run the offense and give himself the best chance to hopefully, if not get drafted, have a chance at earning an NBA contract next year. And the thought did cross my mind watching the game. Like, who knows maybe Duke wins by 22 tonight against Arizona, right? But if Duke doesn't win tonight and there are point guard issues and Arizona's athletic wings give Duke some issues there, it'll be an interesting juxtaposition day over day, seeing what Roach was able to do with Baylor and as Duke is still trying to figure it out. But maybe Caleb Foster will have 12 assists tonight and do an amazing job running the offense overall. So we'll wait and see on that. But good one for Baylor, tough one for St. John's. Now you got to try and avoid having to bail water against Virginia later on Friday in the Bahamas.
Glancing down at the chat, it's a bunch of dollar signs and Baylor gave him the bag and all of that stuff, which is fine. I guess my point would be, if I'm Duke, Duke is Duke. Obviously Duke is Duke. Shouts to Pete Gillen. If I'm Duke, I don't lose a player that I want over money. Is that fair?
Yeah.
If I'm Duke, I'm supposed to be Duke. I'm not losing a player that I want over money. So just interesting. I'm not trying to make anything of it at all. It's possible, because this sometimes is the case. Both sides will be better off for having parted. Jeremy Roach would be better off at Baylor, and Duke would be better off without him. That happened with North Carolina and Caleb Love, right? I think we can reasonably say both things, both sides were better off without each other. But it's just a little thing that, yes, Seth Davis connected those dots last night. They will be connected again. Let's move on. We'll touch on some other notable results, because it wasn't all just Baylor and St. John's over the past couple of days. We'll get to some other notable things next, but first, get a word from our partners. All right, Norlander, feel free to bounce us around wherever you want it to go. But a couple nights ago, I guess the biggest result was probably Alabama 100, Illinois 87. And it happened with Mark Sears, the preseason National Player of the Year, getting exactly 0 of those 100 points.
Yeah. So this is a rare notable game where I did not see most of it. I had a super, super duper early wake up call to get out here to Tucson. So I watched some of the first half, then had to bail. I reading through some of the posts on Twitter and Blue Sky on my route to the airport early on Thursday morning, did I discover the fact that Bama won, scored 100, and Sears didn't score a damn point. And apparently he willingly went to Oates and said, hey, listen, the other guys have it right now. You can keep me on the bench. Like, I'm trusting what we got, which, you know, we hear about stories like this every so often amongst like a truly like notable player. So good on Sears for doing that. Grant Nelson had 23 in that game. LeBaron Filan, who is easily one of the 5 to 7 most valuable freshmen in the country through the first 2 weeks and change so far. He played well. Tough spot for Illinois. They lose by 13, and Bama kind of gets its groove back there. I don't know how much of the game you were able to see or not, so maybe you can expound a bit more on what transpired in the second half. But I was not able to wind up watching that. But I see that Illinois they were able to share the sugar at least. Boswell had 17, and him stepping up in that kind of way is going to be pretty key here. But I thought it was more critical for Bama to respond after its previous loss, and to do it that way. Aiden Holloway had a good game, and without Sears needing to get a single point, feels like a 1,000,000 to 1 odds kind of thing to transpire. But nonetheless, it did on Wednesday. Yeah,
they could maybe play 1,000,000 more games and never reach 100 without Mark Sears scoring 1. So if I'm an Alabama fan, I don't love Mark Sears being held scoreless in 21 minutes, but I do love that we were able to beat Illinois by double digits without getting a single point from Mark Sears. Like, how many teams in the country could get 0 points from their best player and beat Illinois by 13 points? Maybe none other than Alabama, but Alabama has already done it. That's why they're top 10 in basically every computer. Sears didn't play the final 11:27. If you're wondering why he only played 21 minutes, because he didn't play the final 11:27. And you're right, Nate did say that he was going to put him back in, and Sears more or less just said, coach, they're playing, let him go. And he just let him go. And
that's a supremely highly confident move for Sears, and also speaks to the immense trust. Like, there are other coaches that would do it, but not a lot. I mean, you're playing a notable opponent, not on your home floor, but in your backyard in Birmingham. And Illinois almost certainly is going to make the tournament and have a good seed, and you just roll with it. Oates is wired a little bit differently when it comes to this kind of stuff, and he can be a little bit unorthodox for the better. So that's an impressive deal there. There aren't a lot of players or coaches in that exact spot that would have actually rolled with it to that point to where he literally did not come back in the game and they wound up winning.
Yeah, it also speaks to something Matt Painter said about Alabama earlier this season, which is they have a bench that could be a top 25 team. So we mentioned that when he said it, and wondered aloud whether it was actually true. Either way, the sentiment is accurate, and you saw that against Illinois. They didn't beat Illinois with their bench, but they did beat Illinois with their best player, on the bench for 19 of the 40 minutes, and with their best player providing 0 points. Elsewhere, I guess it was that same night, and this is what I chose to write about in the top 25 and 1 on Thursday morning. Rutgers 74, Merrimack 63. Who cares about the score? But Ace Bailey got 23 points, 10 rebounds. Dylan Harper, 14 points, 6 rebounds. Those two 5-star freshmen are now combining to average 39.5 points. I think they've only played together twice so far.
I know. Yeah.
I know, but still. Ace Bailey's averaging 20, Dylan Harper's averaging 19.5. It's so far it's just as fun as we thought it might be.
Yeah, it is, and we're super early, but hopefully that can continue. Would be great for Rutgers. Would be great for college basketball. I've never seen a game at the Rack. I want to get down there, and hopefully Rutgers can build itself into an NCAA tournament level team. But yeah, the opponent, just a low major there, but seeing some good gains there. Wednesday was mostly.
Hold on, real quick.
Okay.
It's a trivia time.
Oh gosh,
it's a trivia time.
Okay.
So. Yeah. By the way, if you didn't see the Ace Bailey highlights, go look at the top 25 and 1 from Thursday morning. They're linked in there. I mean, I'm not saying he's Kevin Durant, but buddy, it looks a lot like that when he's bouncing it and spin. Tall guy, you give to him on the perimeter. He's long and lanky, and he's comfortable bouncing it.
He's bouncier in the paint than Durant was in college for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we've all said Cooper Flagg should and will be the number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA draft, and he might be. But like it ain't over yet, in part because of the existence of Ace Bailey. So right now, Rutgers is nationally ranked, and its two leading scorers are both freshmen by a significant margin.
Oh gosh.
Duke, nationally ranked, its top two scorers also freshmen. That's Conkinepple. Trivia time.
Okay.
Because this is the ongoing debate in the industry. There's a debate going on in the industry. And the debate is this: can you still go to Final Four, win national championship if your best two players, your top two scorers are freshmen? Can you really do that? It's 2024 for crying out loud. That's the debate in the industry. Trivia time. What is the last time a team went to the Final Four and its two leading scorers on the team were both freshmen?
Final Four?
Yeah.
Was it 2015 Kentucky?
No.
Was it 2015 Duke?
No.
Has it been more recent?
No.
You had to think, by the way. If you're watching, Parrish's eyes rolled to the right and was like, what's more recent than 2015? I will say 2014 Kentucky.
Ding, ding, ding. It is 2014 Kentucky. Can you name the two leading scorers on 2014 Kentucky? Because just to make sure you know, 2015 Kentucky, Aaron Harrison was one of the top two scorers as a sophomore. And 2015 Duke, Quinn Cook was one of the top two scorers as a senior. But 2014 Kentucky.
Some of these Kentucky teams blend together. The Harrisons were on that team. Yes. I'll say, was Aaron Harrison one of them?
No.
Andrew Harrison?
No.
They weren't, neither of them.
No.
Some of these Kentucky teams blend together. I think 14 was Julius Randle.
Julius Randle was the leading scorer on the team.
Dude. Was Cauley Stein on that? He's not going to be in the top two, though.
It wasn't Cauley Stein. Buddy, if you couldn't remember R.J. Barrett, you ain't going to get this one.
By the way, for our new listeners, that's about a 2.5-year-old callback right there from GP right there. I don't know. Randall, Harrison's, Cauley Stein, Cat and crew were the next year. Who is it?
It was the great James Young.
James Young. Let's remember some dudes, man. James Young. Wow.
James Young, man. Hey, he was a first-round pick. Played a few years in the NBA.
He was. Yes.
Been bouncing around. Last I saw, he was making an honest living in Italy. Shouts to James Young.
Hey, listen. Much worse lives than to be playing ball and calling and planting your flag in Italy. That's good on him, and I hope he's absolutely loving it. We'll see if it can get done. With the likes of Rutgers or Duke. But that's an exciting development there. Memphis won on Thursday. They won at San Francisco. They won late. What was it? 68-64, I believe, at Golden Gate Mike Center. So good on the Tigers for getting that done. And it's a nice start here. I'll see the Tigers in Maui in just a few days when they take on UConn. That's a matchup with some intriguing appeal there overall. Elsewhere on Thursday, we're going to talk Texas a bit more here in a second, but I'll at least note that they beat Syracuse, first time they had faced since the 2003 Final Four. Arthur Kaluma had 16 points, 10 boards in 39 minutes. I think he was my biggest objection to not making our preseason top 101 list. I thought he deserved to be on there, but he did not make the cut this year after being on last year. Trey Johnson had 16 points. Played well again. He hit 6 free throws in the final minute to kind of secure it, while meanwhile Hughes was 50% from the line in that one. So Texas got a good win and got it done in impressive fashion there. And then St. Joe's beat Texas Tech. That's a big win for the A-10. And we talked about Baylor winning. Save this one for a couple episodes from now. The Big 12 has just had some losses here and there, where it's kind of like, Arizona's got a big opportunity here on Friday night against Duke. I think the conference on the whole, you add more teams, kind of feels semi-inevitable. It's just taking a couple more losses than it has collectively as a league in recent seasons there. In Charleston, Drake, under new coach Ben McCollum, beat Miami. Now we'll see what happens. The Charleston Classic is ongoing here, so we'll see if they can continue to make some noise, but that certainly perks some heads up because Miami, the ACC has also had some issues, and Miami considered to be one of those fringe tournament teams potentially. It gets beat. FAU, another program with the first-year coach, beat another Power 5 opponent, took over Oklahoma State. So that's a good win there. And Seton Hall beat VCU. Everything else, Oregon beat Oregon State on the road. They came back. That I actually think that was kind of critical for the Ducks as they try and build an NCAA tournament resume. So a quickie little tour of a whip around there, but those were some of the more notable results from Thursday.
All right, I think that means it's time for the Final Four and One, brought to you by Fanduel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We'll do that next, but first, let's get one more word from our partners.
Historic rivals with unforgettable seasons meet in a game of honor. The Army-Navy game presented by USAA, December 14th on CBS.
It's the Final Four and One, brought to you by Fanduel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. I believe last week I took an insurmountable lead.
I don't know if it's insurmountable, but I did think that you took the lead. Nana, turn on that mic, turn on that music, and tell us where we stand in the Final Four and One.
So GP has a 1-game lead, which technically is insurmountable.
It's not technically insurmountable. It's extremely
Hashtag insurmountable.
These mountains in Tucson that I see in the distance that look absolutely beautiful with the rising sun here, those legitimately seem insurmountable. Your 1-game lead in the Final Four and One is not insurmountable. Just like walking across the street, I got a little Chipotle here, Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
European Wax Center. What's going on over there?
Oh, I can tell you. I know what's going on over there. Hey, stop bragging. I got the Ed Sullivan Theater right behind me, all right? You want to know what's right there to my right? Bad Boy Records.
Okay.
What do you think happened down there? What do you think went on down there?
I don't want to know.
You're worried about the European Wax place, buddy. Bad Boy Records is right down there, right now. I never been. I want the record to show. I want the record to reflect I've never been. I've stayed above it a million times, but I've never been to Bad Boy. I walk past it sometimes, but I've never been there.
Game one.
Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Pitt versus LSU inside the Katherine Johnson Hall. You can watch it on CBS Sports Network. It's Pitt -6.5. You don't even know about Katherine Johnson.
I actually do. I watched an educational documentary recently. I'm pretty sure she is the matriarch of NASA. If I could boil it down to one sentence, I believe that's the case. Right?
How do you know this? I know how you know this. I was seriously impressed for 6 seconds. And then I remembered I put this in the document, and that's how you saw it. And then you Google Katherine Johnson. She's an amazing woman.
She's an amazing woman. And in all seriousness, our children should be learning about who Katherine Johnson is, and I'm familiar with who Katherine Johnson is. Go ahead.
Okay. First off, do you even know that this is the Greenbrier tip-off?
Yes, I do. I'm familiar.
In White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Yes. And I was like, man, they're going to multi-team events in Las Vegas and the Bahamas.
Apparently, this is a gorgeous place, though.
I'm ready to take my family. Yeah. My initial thought was, who is going to a multi-team event in West Virginia when the Bahamas is down there? And then I was like, let me check out the Greenbrier. You can make this into a commercial if you want to. And then I was like, I think I'm taking my family to West Virginia on vacation next summer. I think we're going to the Greenbrier. It looks amazing. Anyway, so then I'm like, well, it's in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. I don't know nothing about that place. And there ain't a whole lot out there other than, man, the Greenbrier is really nice. And that's how I stumbled into Katherine Johnson, mathematician, physicist for NASA. We lost her in February 2020 at the age of 101.
Yeah, you don't remember when she died? Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we were on the precipice of a pandemic. I guess there was a lot made about when she passed, what she did. Yeah. Anyway.
I of course I remember, but you have to also remember context.
You do not. There's no chance. There's no chance you remembered when she died.
Of course I remember, but you have to remember context. We had just lost Kobe. Okay.
We did. If you want to say that Kobe Bryant's shocking and tragic death overshadowed the loss of Katherine Johnson, I think that is a fair statement.
We had just lost Kobe. We were headed towards a pandemic. Obi Toppin was headed for a 1 seed. There was a lot going on.
True. Yeah.
There was a lot going on.
Those three things were all in the same conversation. Yep.
So when we lost Katherine Johnson, it was, somewhat overshadowed, but not in my household. She made it to 101, outlived Guy Mackey by Buddy. Woo! I mean,
okay. Okay. How much earlier? We are on a time limit. I can't get into this. By the way, Morrison crying in the chat. Shouts to you. The Greenbrier has a decommissioned nuclear bunker under it that was for members of Congress in the event of nuclear war. This place sounds phenomenal.
I can't wait to get home.
I'm going with you. I'm calling the wife and kids. We're going together.
Let's do a 2-family vacation. I can't wait to get home and be like, kids, we're going to West Virginia for vacation. I never thought I'd say that, but man, I'm ready to go. Anyway, listen, here's the truth about Katherine Johnson. Her calculations of orbital mechanics as a NASA employee, they were critical to the success of the first and subsequent U.S. crewed space flights. So in simple terms, she was a math whiz, amazing woman. We lost a good one when we lost Katherine Johnson. Anyway, Pitt is 5-0. They got wins over West Virginia and Murray State. LSU's 4-0. They got a win over Kansas State. This is a sneaky good one.
I would say this is fairly sneaky good. In true podcast fashion, we're probably going to spend 3 times as long on the person the event is named after for the purpose of the Final Four 1 as opposed to the actual game.
That's right.
Especially because you and I both got to get out of here pretty quick here. This is a great opportunity for both teams, but in particular for the Tigers. Pitt is 14th at KenPom right now. Now, some of that's preseason projection, but that is way higher than I think anyone realizes unless you're a Pitt fan. And as I mentioned earlier, the ACC has missed a lot of opportunities here, so don't blow this one. Ishmael Leggett is leading the team with 17+ per game as a senior, and Jalen Lowe has been as good as advertised. In fact, to me, the Cam Carter, Jalen Lowe matchup in this one is what to watch. I will take LSU to cover, but give me the Panthers to win and remain undefeated.
Ishmael Leggett averaging 17.6 points. He was the 3rd leading scorer last season at Pitt. They lose Blake Henson, lose Bub Carrington. People don't always, quote, step up into that role the way you'd like for him to, but he has so far. I'm laying points with Pitt, so I'm laying the Pitt -6.5.
Okay.
Game 2 is Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Number 19, Wisconsin versus UCF. It's inside Katherine Johnson Hall.
Yeah, it is.
You could also watch it on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, you can.
Wait till I drop some Katherine Johnson knowledge on CBS Sports Network today.
You better.
I didn't learn all this for nothing.
That's
Wisconsin -4.5. How you want to act?
This is another sneaky good game. Wisconsin's got its Johns, Tonje and Blackwell combining to average 39 a game so far. People are saying it's the new Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. That's what they're saying.
That's right. Yep.
UCF is getting 17.5 per game from Jordan Ivy Curry, which, by the way, I feel like if your name is Jordan Ivy Curry, you better damn well be pretty good at basketball. And he has been that. I mean, you come into this world and you're dubbed Jordan Ivy Curry. Come on now. Keyshawn Hall also 17.5. Darius Johnson 14.5 points per game. That is a really good guard attack. I will take UCF to win this game straight up. I like the Knights. I picked them to make the NCAA tournament before the season. One of my sleeper teams out of the Big 12. I think they get it done against the Badgers.
So UCF is 4-0. They got the win over A&M. Obviously, good win. But I don't want to say it's a rule, but I typically assume – I assume you are what you are until you prove me otherwise. And for a team like UCF, it typically takes. I need 2 of these. I can't just jump you straight into the top 25 and 1 after one Texas A&M win. I need 2 of these types of wins. But from that perspective, this is a chance for UCF to get a second good one. If you win this game today, Johnny Dawkins, then you're 5-0. You got a win over a Wisconsin team that beat Arizona and is ranked 19th in the AP poll. And then you'd have that other win over an A&M team that beat Ohio State and is 23rd in the AP poll. That's a strong first 3-week start for UCF. I would have to launch them straight into the top 25 and 1 at that point, but I'm taking Wisconsin -4.5. Game 3, Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, number 11 Tennessee versus number 13 Baylor. It's inside Kimbo Slice Arena in the Bahamas. That's where he's from. You can watch it on CBS. We got some games today, buddy. Tennessee -3.
Tennessee, is it now? It's down to 3?
The last number I saw, which was less than an hour ago, was Tennessee -3.
Okay. That might change things over here because I know the line was bigger than that previously. Tennessee has not allowed an opponent, now early, but hasn't allowed an opponent to hit 70 so far. Defense has been great. Registers number 1 at KenPom. Chaz Lanier has lived up to the billing. He had a good game on Thursday. He's averaging 16.2 points. That leads the Volunteers, North Florida transfer. They basically decided between Tennessee and Kentucky. This might be working out well for all parties, regardless of the decision there. Between Lanier shooting, Guy Ziegler, 7.4 assists, among the best distributors and defensive guards in the country. Here's the intriguing thing, all right? Tennessee is shooting 40.2% from three-point range. Baylor is allowing 40.2% from three-point range. So the same exact mark on both sides of the ball there for these teams. Over under, Tennessee shoots 40.2% from three-point range on Friday against Baylor.
I'm going to take the under.
I'm also going to take the under, but it's an intriguing coincidence nonetheless there. I'll take the under, but if it was, say, 36.5, I would take the over. Tennessee's shooting from three-point range is it's been Dalton Knecht no longer around, obviously, but some of his spirit there lingers. This is Baylor's 4th high major opponent in 7 games. No one has played a tougher schedule than the Bears so far. 2-1 in the previous 3. They barely escaped, pun intended, on Thursday night, and their defense is a bit all over the place. I'm actually interested to see Felix Okpara versus Norchad Omier. 2 different kinds of bigs in this game. Very different styles, different body types, everything, how they go against each other. F it. All right. I'll say Tennessee wins, and I'll say if it's at 3 even, I'll say push actually feels like the most likely outcome, even though it's not. I will say Tennessee wins and Tennessee covers.
Baylor played 50 minutes yesterday, but Tennessee played the late game. And you mentioned the cramping on the St. John's side. Edgecombe was dealing with something as well. That he for the last 10 minutes of the game, it felt like. So Scott jokingly post-game said, we need a day off. You don't get one. We'll see what happens, but I'll take the points. I'll cheer for a close game. Give me Baylor plus the 3. Game 4, Friday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Norlander's going to be inside. Number 12, Duke, at number 17, Arizona. It's going to happen inside the Book Richardson Center. You can watch it on ESPN2. Arizona -1.5.
The Book Richardson Center.
Just the Book.
I took in Arizona practice yesterday, and this is the return game. These teams played a year ago, obviously, with Duke hosting and losing to Arizona. And how is Duke's young team, young guys, for the most part, going to handle this kind of environment? And, even older players can step into it. Like McHale has a real claim to being a top 10 venue in the sport. They are going to be ready. I can't wait to be in the building tonight for this game. Arizona is extremely good on the offensive rebounding end. Can they continue to do that? Can they get a lot of second chance opportunities? How does Caleb Love play in this kind of game? The former North Carolina player going against Duke, he has some really sweet memories associated with playing this team and has played them. Obviously, he's played them every year of his career. Flag, how much is he going to be tasked with? Is this a spot where Con Knippel steps up and has a really good game? Or, who does Arizona task with shutting him down? Jaden Bradley. I actually think for both teams and what their guys can do on defense, I think this is going to be an awesome game because I think you're going to see a lot of different types of scenarios throughout this game in terms of who is assigned to whom and who takes advantage of that overall. It's a lot to ask Duke, which had that close but tough loss against Kentucky, to come into this spot here when it's got Flag, Knippel, Foster as the point guard who's capable, but not like a high-level point, and he's not, he's not a natural point guard. Malawach, a freshman, him going up against Krivas is going to be intriguing. There's a ton here, And it maybe to me feels like a game where if Duke's going to win or if Duke's going to keep it close, is it going to be someone unsuspecting? Like, is Sion James going to be a guy that steps up in a huge spot and plays really, really well here? Will it be Foster? Will Proctor have one of the best games of his career? I don't know. There seems to be a lot of different outcomes here on the table for Duke. For Arizona, they're just trying to recover. Remember, both teams are coming off losses to their high major opponents. Arizona allowed 103 in an 87 foul fest against Wisconsin a week ago here. And between Bradley, Love, KJ Lewis, and their wing attack, it should be a really fascinating game. I'm going to take Arizona to win and to cover. And my biggest reason is Duke is coming into a really hostile environment and overcoming that, relying on a lot of guys who have all of 4 or 5 games in their college careers to their name, could be asking too much.
Yeah, asking a freshman-heavy team to win in the McKell Center, otherwise known as the Book Richardson Center, is like a big ask. Like that. How about this? If they can do it, I would call it the most impressive feat of the season so far.
I think that's and in terms of actual win value, I would think there's not going to be a win more valuable 17, 18 days in the season than this.
A Duke team led by a 17-year-old winning in the Book Richardson Center the week before Thanksgiving would be a massive accomplishment. I respect buildings, and the Book Richardson Center is a building that is worthy of respect. It is a building that has my respect. I love that John is willing to play these games.
100%. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Be willing to do this kind of games. I talked with Tommy Lloyd after practice yesterday on just some stuff, and he shared with me a game that is not done, a series, but it's of this kind of level. And these two coaches want to play home and homes and are intentionally scheduling them. And that's the biggest thing here. We applaud them for that, for making the sport better in the first month of the season. For sure.
John understands, and Tommy too, because Tommy took Arizona to Cameron last season, right? John understands that that he is in charge of something really meaningful and really important in the world of college athletics. That's the Duke basketball brand. He's in charge of it now. And K's the GOAT. This isn't meant that any sort of criticism of him. He clearly knew how to run a basketball program, but he just would not do stuff like this very often, if at all. And I know even before John actually took the reins, so to speak, he had decided he wanted to do stuff like this. He understands taking the Blue Devils to somebody else's campus is an event and good for the sport. And I love that he's willing to do it. But, buddy, asking your freshman-heavy team to go win in this place tonight, that's tough. If they do it, I can't wait to write about it for the lead of the top 25-1. But I'll take Arizona like you, -1.5 at home. What's our last game?
Last game, then we're going to wrap this up because GP and I are both up against it here. So normally I give you other stuff to watch. Just know there's a bunch of day ball on again in the Charleston Classic. It's going at 11:30 Eastern, Drake FAU. Let's go here. The and one is Friday, approximately 9 Eastern on Christopher Wallace Court. If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Texas is an 8.5-point favorite against St. Joe's. Trey Johnson is averaging 22 a game. That leads all freshmen in the country. Arthur Kaluma mentioned him before. He's proven to be good for 13, 14, 15 points a game in addition to 6, 7, 8 rebounds there. I think that in this game, Texas might need a third guy, and to me, it's got to be Oregon State transfer Jordan Pope. A guard needs to step up here. St. Joe's has a really quality backcourt. Eric Reynolds and Xavier Brown are combining to put up 34 a game, and then Rasheer Fleming has actually been really good so far, and he's having some nice moments. He's good for 14 as well. So this it doesn't get nearly as much attention, understandably so, as like a Duke Arizona, but I actually think the potential for this game to be really, really good is really, really high. I'll make the pick here first, GP. The line's a bit too much for me because of how good St. Joe's backcourt is. But maybe this is a game where Texas comes out, absolutely takes a massive swing and wins by 15, and we start taking stock of, okay, Longhorns really might have something here. I'm going to push against that. I'll say Longhorns win. Joe's gets inside that line comfortably. It's no more than a 2-possession game once the final horn sounds.
Yeah, St. Joe's took that goofy loss, but I thought that was a quality basketball team, like an A10 contender. And that's a big number for Texas to be laying against a quality basketball team. I'll take Billy Lang. I'll take St. Joe's plus the 8.5. And that completes the final 4-1 presented by Fanduel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We both got busy days ahead of us, so let's get out of our hotel rooms, or at least you can get out of your hotel room. I got to sit here.
I'm heading out. You want to know where I was eating? I'm hitting a little Baja. You know what? You know about Baja Cafe? Big time spot in Tucson. I'm heading out here right now and getting that done. Nada, by the way, in the private chat said he has stories about White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. That's going to have to be for another show. I don't even know why or how in the hell Nada has stories about that. But we got to push it off to the side.
My kids are going to have stories about White Sulphur Springs. Give it till July. My kids are going to have all sorts of White Sulphur Springs stories. Bad Boy Records is right down there. All right. So you go to the Baja, whatever, but like Bad Boy Records is right down there. You don't have any idea what's happening. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagley's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That needs to be reflected in the comments. So please do that, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.